Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a point in every relationship or almost relationship where you feel the pull to prove yourself, to show him you're the one worth choosing. You start to compete, maybe not against another woman, but against his indifference, his inconsistency, his silence. And in that moment, you forget something very important. You are not in competition. You are the prize. When you disappear instead of compete for his love, you are not losing the game. You're changing it. You're saying, if it takes me fighting to be loved, I don't want that kind of love. Because disappearing is not about manipulation, it's about preservation. It's choosing peace over proving a point. It's saying, I won't chase what isn't chasing me. You see, when you step back, you give the other person space to show who they really are. If he reaches out, if he steps forward, great. You've just learned he values you. If he doesn't, then you've learned something even more valuable. He never deserved the version of you who was willing to fight for something one-sided. Ladies, your silence has power. Your absence speaks volumes. It says, I know my worth, and I don't need to shout it to make you see it. When you stop competing, something beautiful happens. Your energy shifts. You stop radiating need and start radiating confidence. And the world, not just men, but opportunities, people, experiences, begins to respond to that shift. Real love, the kind that lasts, doesn't make you anxious. It doesn't make you feel like you have to earn it every day. It gives you peace, not panic. So when you feel that urge to chase, to prove, to compete, take a breath, step back. When you see love as something that must be earned through effort or comparison, you shift from connection to performance. You start living from fear, the fear of not being enough, of being replaced, of not being seen. And fear never builds intimacy. It only creates anxiety. The truth is, genuine connection can never be forced. If someone truly values you, they won't need to see you outperform others to recognize your worth. They'll feel it through your presence, your authenticity, your energy. Self-worth means knowing that you don't have to chase what's not meeting you halfway. It's understanding that walking away from something that doesn't serve you isn't arrogance, it's clarity. The world has taught many people to believe that effort equals value, that if you just hold on long enough, it'll all be worth it. But love that demands you to compete is not love. It's insecurity disguised as romance. The most magnetic thing you can ever do is stand still in your worth. To say, I know what I bring to the table, and I'm not afraid to eat alone until someone brings the same energy. That's not ego, that's balance. Because when you truly value yourself, you stop trying to convince someone else to. You stop begging for breadcrumbs and start expecting the full meal of emotional availability, effort, and consistency. Competing for someone's love also creates a dangerous illusion that winning means you've succeeded. But what exactly have you won if the person you had to compete for was unsure in the first place? You might win their attention, but you'll lose your peace trying to keep it. You might win the relationship, but it will be built on insecurity, not respect. The irony is that people often chase the very things that make them feel small, while overlooking how powerful it feels to choose themselves. When you stop competing, you reclaim your voice. You remind yourself that your value isn't dependent on how someone else perceives you. Love that requires competition isn't love that nourishes, it's love that drains. Real love recognizes without persuasion. It sees you and says, you're enough, just as you are. Choosing self-worth over competition is not about giving up on love, it's about redefining it. It's about understanding that the person who deserves you will never make you feel like you have to fight to be chosen. Because the right love doesn't ask you to prove yourself, it invites you to be yourself. Disappearing is often misunderstood. People think that when you step back, you're being cold, detached, or playing games. But true disappearance, the kind that comes from self-respect, is not about manipulation. It's about reclaiming your peace. It's about realizing that constantly showing up for someone who isn't showing up for you is the slowest form of self-abandonment. When you disappear instead of chase, you send a quiet but powerful message. I value myself enough to walk away from what doesn't value me. Disappearing isn't about silence as punishment. It's silence as clarity. When you keep trying to prove your worth to someone who's unsure, you dilute your own energy. You teach them that. They can take their time deciding because you'll always be there. But when you step back, when you stop explaining, defending, or begging to be seen, you shift the dynamic completely. Your absence forces reflection. It gives the other person space to realize what they had, what they lost, and what they chose to neglect. And if they don't realize it, that's still your answer. There is power in restraint. It's easy to talk, to plead, to overextend yourself, trying to fix a situation that should never have required that kind of effort. It takes real strength to stay silent, to let your absence speak louder than your presence ever could. Because sometimes, disappearing is the only language that truth understands. You can't convince someone to appreciate you while you're still making yourself too available to be missed. Disappearing doesn't mean you don't care. It means you've stopped confusing caring with sacrificing your dignity. It's choosing emotional maturity over emotional chaos. It's knowing that chasing love that's fading is like trying to light a candle in the wind. It drains you and the flame still dies. By disappearing, you stop feeding the illusion that love can be built on imbalance. You let go of the fantasy that if you just give a little more, they'll finally see your value. And what happens when you disappear is revealing. The right person will feel your absence and seek you. They'll step forward, close the gap, and show through action that you matter. The wrong one will stay still, relieved that the chase is over. Either way, you gain clarity. You learn who's truly invested and who was only there out of convenience. Disappearing is power because it recenters you. It redirects your energy from desperation to dignity. It reminds you that you don't need to compete for anyone's attention. You only need to align with those who match your effort. There's peace in letting go, in trusting that what's meant for you will never need to be chased. When you disappear, you don't lose anything of real value. You lose only what was never secure in the first place. And that is not weakness, that is wisdom. When you disappear, you create a kind of silence that reveals the truth. In relationships, words can be misleading promises, excuses, and justifications often mask what someone truly feels. But actions, or the absence of them, always tell the real story. When you step back, when you stop calling, texting, or trying to fix things, you give the other person space to show what they're made of. That space becomes a mirror reflecting their intentions. If they value you, they'll move toward you. If they don't, they'll stay where they are, and in that stillness, you'll see everything you need to know. People reveal themselves not when you're close, but when you give them distance. While you're there, constantly available, they don't have to make an effort. They don't have to choose, because you've already made the choice for both of you. Your presence gives them comfort without commitment. But when you step away, you remove that comfort. You take back your energy, and suddenly, they're left with the reality of your absence. That's when truth shows up, either through action or silence. Letting actions reveal intentions protects you from the confusion that words often create. Someone might say they care, but do they show it? They might claim to miss you, but do they reach out? The moment you stop filling the silence with effort, you give them the opportunity to prove whether those words were ever real. It's not about testing them, it's about allowing the truth to surface naturally. Because the person who genuinely values you won't let distance grow without trying to close it. This process isn't easy. It takes courage to step back, to risk losing someone you care about. But the alternative, chasing constant reassurance, is far more painful. When you disappear and they don't move, that's not rejection, that's redirection. It's life showing you where not to invest your heart. When someone's intentions are pure, they will always make an effort to keep you close. When they're uncertain or selfish, they'll let you drift without resistance. Either outcome gives you clarity, and clarity is freedom. The beauty of stepping back is that it removes illusion. You no longer rely on potential or promises. You start seeing behavior for what it is, not for what you hope it could become. If they come forward, it's because they choose to, not because you pushed. And if they don't, it's because their interest was never deep enough to begin with. You don't have to overanalyze or overthink, it's all right there, in the space between your absence and their response. Letting actions reveal intentions is a form of emotional maturity. It says, I'm done arguing for my worth. I'll let your behavior tell me everything. That's power. That's peace. Because once you learn to read actions instead of excuses, you stop chasing clarity. You start embodying it. And from that moment on, you'll never again settle for uncertainty disguised as love. Energy is a mirror, and what you attract into your life often reflects what you believe you deserve. When you hold on to uncertainty, when you keep engaging with people who confuse you, disappoint you, or make you question your value, you're sending a signal to the world that this is acceptable. You might not say it out loud, but your actions broadcast it. The energy you give becomes the standard for what you receive. If you settle for inconsistency, you invite more of it. If you radiate confidence, you draw in people who recognize and respect it. Walking away from what drains you isn't cold-hearted. It's a form of energetic hygiene. Every interaction, every connection is an exchange of energy. When you stay attached to someone who is half in, half out, you constantly leak power. You invest time, emotion, and effort into something that gives you only confusion in return. But when you choose to step away, you reclaim that energy. You tell the universe and yourself, I'm done feeding situations that don't feed me back. That simple act changes everything. Your energy teaches people how to treat you. When you move from neediness to self-assurance, from overgiving to balance, people respond differently. Some will rise to meet your new energy, others will fall away. It's not rejection, it's resonance. The people who can no longer connect with your peace were only aligned with your chaos. That's why disappearing from situations that don't align with your worth isn't loss, it's alignment. You're no longer matching frequencies with uncertainty. You're tuning yourself to clarity. When you walk away from what confuses you, you create space for what's certain. Love, respect, and genuine connection thrive in clarity. They can't exist where you're constantly guessing your place. The more you respect your boundaries, the more life mirrors that respect back to you. Opportunities appear, relationships deepen, and peace replaces anxiety. Energy doesn't lie, it amplifies whatever you tolerate. So when you say no to confusion, you're not closing doors, you're opening better ones. This isn't about perfection or pretending you're unaffected. It's about awareness. It's about realizing that what you entertain repeatedly becomes your emotional environment. If you keep allowing chaos, it becomes normal. If you start choosing calm, it becomes your new baseline. People often think attraction is about looks or charm, but it's really about energy. Confidence, peace, and self-respect are magnetic. They draw in people who feel the same way about themselves and repel those who thrive on instability. Energy is a mirror that never lies. If your relationships feel heavy, it's not just about the other person, it's about where you're focusing your attention. The moment you decide to walk away from what confuses you, you signal to the world that you're ready for what's real. That shift doesn't just change who you attract, it changes how you see yourself. You stop trying to win love and start embodying it. And that's the point where life begins to reflect back the peace you finally chose. Love doesn't need to be fought for, because real love is never something that demands constant proving. When someone truly cares, you don't have to earn their attention, chase their affection, or compete for their time. Genuine love flows naturally. It feels calm, mutual, and secure. The idea that love is supposed to be a struggle is one of the biggest lies people tell themselves to justify relationships that are draining or one-sided. When you find yourself constantly trying to win someone's love, it's not love you're chasing, it's validation. And validation fades the moment the other person withdraws. True love doesn't put you in a position where you must convince someone to stay. It's not about outshining others or constantly proving your worth through grand gestures or endless patience. When love is right, it's not something you perform, it's something you share. The right person doesn't make you question where you stand. They show up, they reciprocate, they meet you in the middle because they value the connection just as much as you do. That's what makes love real. It's mutual effort without manipulation, consistency without confusion. Fighting for love often comes from fear, the fear of being alone, of losing something familiar, or of believing that you won't find better. But that fear keeps you stuck in cycles of emotional exhaustion. When you fight for someone who doesn't fight for you, you aren't proving your love, you're betraying your peace. Love that constantly requires you to struggle is love that costs too much. It drains your energy, your joy, and eventually your sense of self-worth. You shouldn't have to suffer to be loved. You shouldn't have to audition for someone's attention. Love that's real feels like home. It's not perfect, but it's safe. It doesn't leave you anxious or uncertain, it grounds you. You don't wake up every day wondering if you're enough, because the other person makes sure you know you are. They don't make you fight to be chosen because, to them, you already are. That's the kind of love that grows. That's the kind of love that lasts. Anything that demands you to compete, to beg, or to tolerate inconsistency isn't love. It's attachment disguised as connection. The moment you stop fighting for what's not fighting for you, everything changes. You stop chasing potential and start honoring reality. You begin to understand that peace is more valuable than proximity. The right love won't drain you, it will empower you. It will not require you to sacrifice your boundaries or silence your needs. It will invite you to be fully yourself and still be deeply appreciated for it. When you finally understand that love isn't meant to be fought for, you stop trying to force it and start allowing it. You trust that the love meant for you will never put you in competition, confusion, or chaos.